everyone! Today, let's hook this little fox together. After hooking, the height of this little fox is about 25 centimeters. Very cute little animal. Let's take a look at the back of it again. There is no special decoration in the back. Next, let's hook this little fox together. First, let's hook the head of the little fox. Run the yarn around your fingers. Pinch the intersection with your right hand. Lay the yarn with your left hand. Pinch the intersection with your left hand. Crochet in. Wrap the yarn around and pull it over. And then you hook it around. Pull this little loop. This is a chain stitch. Next, we hooked 6 single crochets in the round. First, stitch threading. The crochet presses the yarn and pulls it over. Then pull these 2 loops together. This is the first single crochet. Mark the first single crochet. Next, hook the second single crochet. Let's take a look. Thread a stitch inside the ring. The crochet presses the yarn and pulls it over. Then parallel the stitches. Then the third stitch. Fourth stitch. For the first round, we need to hook 6 single crochets. The single crochet is represented by the letter symbol X. Take a look. We hooked these 6 single crochets. Next, pull this little thread tail hard. And then we did the first single crochet of the mark. Thread a stitch inside the stitch. Let's take a look. Just cross these 2 lines horizontally. Then hook the yarn and pull it over. Then take it to the back loop. This is a slip stitch. Tension. In that case, the first round is completed. After each round is hooked, it needs to be connected like this. Next, hook the second round. Hook a chain stitch first. We need to hook 6 increases in this round. Let's hook. Crochet in the first single crochet. Hook the first single crochet. The increase is represented by the letter symbol V. Hook the first single crochet first. Mark it well. And then still in this stitch. Then hook a single crochet. This is an increase. It is equal to 2 single crochets in each stitch. Thread the crochet through the second stitch. Hook another increase. That is, hook 2 single crochets. Okay, the second increase is done. What's next? We will hook all the remaining 4 increases. After the second round, there are 12 single crochets. Okay, we're done with the second round. Let's do end to end. Hook a slip stitch in the first single crochet. Pull the yarn over. Take to the back loop. Tensioning. The second round is done. So here we go for the third round. For the third round, let's hook a chain stitch first. For the third round, 1 single crochet and 1 increase is a group. Repeat the hook 6 times. Hook a single crochet in the first stitch. Mark it well. Hook an increase in the second stitch. Okay, 1 single crochet and 1 increase. So that's a combination. You need to hook this round 6 times. Now hook the second time. There is a single crochet in the third stitch. 2 stitches are hooked inside the fourth stitch. Okay, it's done the second time. Next, we will hook all the remaining 4 times. After the third round, there are 18 single crochets. So everyone hooks. And we learn to look at this crochet diagram. Later, we can crochet a small part independently. The single crochet is represented by the letter symbol X. The increase is represented by the letter symbol V. Let's hook this round 3 first. Okay, after the third round is hooked, let's do end to end. Be sure to tighten. Third round completed. Next we hook the fourth round. Hook a chain stitch first. 1 single crochet and 1 increase and 1 single crochet is a group. Repeat the hook 6 times. Let's hook. A separate single crochet is hooked inside the first stitch. Mark it well. An increase is hooked inside the second stitch. That's 2 single crochets on the hook. A separate single crochet is hooked inside the third stitch. It's a combination. We need to hook 6 times. So here we go a second time. There is a stitch in the fourth stitch. 2 stitches are hooked inside the fifth stitch. Then there is a stitch in the sixth stitch. It was done the second time. Now we're going to hook off all 4 of them. After the fourth round is hooked, there are 24 single crochets. This head is a process of slowly adding stitches. Okay, and that's the fourth round. Hook a slip stitch. So now we do the fifth round. Hook a chain stitch first. 3 single crochets and 1 increase is a group. Repeat the hook 6 times. Let's hook. Mark the first stitch. Then hook a stitch in the second stitch. A stitch is hooked inside the third stitch. Here are 3 single crochets. An increase is hooked inside the fourth stitch. The first combination is complete. We hook the second combination. This round is also repeated 6 times. Hook 3x first. Then hook an increase. Okay, the second combination is complete. Let's hook all the remaining 4 combinations. After the 5th round, it will change to 30 single crochets. Everyone follow me to hook. Okay, the 5th round is done. Hook a slip stitch. Okay, now we're going to hook round 6. Hook a chain stitch first. For the 6th round, 2 single crochets, 1 increase, and 2 single crochets. Repeat the hook 6 times. A stitch is hooked inside the first stitch. Mark it well. A stitch is hooked inside the second stitch. Next, hook an increase inside the third stitch. Then hook a stitch in the fourth stitch. A stitch is hooked inside the fifth stitch. That's a big combination. You need to hook this round 6 times. So let's hook it a second time. First hook 2 single crochets. Then 1 increases. Then hook 2 single crochets. Okay, it's done the second time. So what's next? Let's hook all the remaining 4 times. Okay, after we hook this round 6, and then look at the diagrams, hook all rounds 7 to 21. So just follow the diagram to hook. Let's take a look. We've got round 21. Now we're going to do round 22. Hook a chain stitch first. So what we do is we hook 13 single crochets. mark the first stitch. And round 22, mainly for everyone to see. How to hook the decrease of single crochet. First, hook the 13 single crochets. Inside each stitch, hook a stitch accordingly. Okay, after the hook is done, then we hook 3 decreases. What about the decrease? We use the letter symbol A to represent. Then let's first take a look at how to hook decrease. First, through the front loop of the 14th stitch, this single loop. Then through the front loop of the 15th stitch, this single loop goes through at the same time. Crochet the yarn and pull it over. Then parallel the stitches. These 2 stitches will be reduced to 1 stitch. This is how to reduce the stitches for single crochets. Through the front loop. Through another front loop. Then the crochet hooks the thread. Pull over. The second decrease is complete. Then the third decrease. Through the front loop of the stitches. Through the front loop of another stitch again. Pull the yarn over. Then the 3 decreases are completed. Then we hooked another 24 single crochets in a row. What about decreasing? Denoted by the letter symbol A. What about later? We see the alphabet symbol again. Just hook it like this. What about the numbers in front? It means needs to hook a few times. 3A represents the 3 decreases. Okay, what about after hooking these 20 for single crochets? You need to hook 3 decreases. Let's take a look again. First stitch. Second stitch. Third stitch. Okay, what about after the hook is done? 11 stitches left. And then we hooked these 11 single crochets. And round 22, it's like losing 6 stitches. Rounded into 50 for single crochets. All right, after the hook is done, let's hook a slip stitch. What about going through this round? We learned how to hook decrease. What's next? We still look at the diagrams. Hook all the following rounds 23 to 27. Everybody follow the diagram to hook. Okay, take a look. Round 27. This slip stitch has not been made yet. We stretch the line. We're going to do this end-to-end connection with a suture needle. Leave a long tail. So take a look. Skip the first stitch. Thread the needle through the second stitch like this. And then we found the last single crochet through its back loop, along with this little loop below. So go through at the same time. By suturing, a new stitch will be formed. In this case, our head is hooked. Later, we put PP cotton in it. The sides are the part of the face, and then the front is the face. Our head is hooked. What about the raised parts on both sides? That's the face part. Okay, after our head is hooked, then we're going to hook the nose. What about the first 4 rounds of our noses? You can completely look at the diagram and go hook. From the 5th round, there will be new stitches. So let's hook this first 4 rounds first. As for the stitches, we still use the magic ring. Put this thread on your finger and wrap it around like this. Take it down and line it up. Stitch the intersection. Crochet it in. The first round hooks 6 single crochets. Hook a chain stitch first. In the first round, we still hooked 6 single crochets first. Mark the first stitch. Second stitch. Third stitch, fourth stitch, fifth stitch. Sixth stitch. After hooking, tighten this thread tail. Then we do end to end. First round completed. Then you're going to look at the diagrams. Hook the rounds 2, 2, 4, and after we do that, we're going to look at round 5. Then let's do the 5th round. First hook a chain stitch. In the 5th round, we will hook 2 increases first. Mark the first stitch. Then the second increase. Next, 2 separate single crochets to X. Next is a separate increase. Okay, what about after these stitches? Next we need to hook 9 half double crochets in a row. Wrap the yarn and thread the crochet into the next stitch. Pull the yarn over. At this time, the crochet has 3 loops on it. Pull these 3 loops together. This is a half double crochet. Next we hook the second half double crochet. Wrap the yarn, thread the crochet in the next stitch, and pull the yarn over. Through the 3 loops together. Okay, 2 half double crochets are hooked. Next, we hook 7 half double crochets in a row. Half double crochets are represented by the letter symbol T. 9 half double crochets in a row. Okay, after the hook is done, then an increase. Thread the crochet into the next stitch. Hook an increase. Okay, these are 2 single crochets. Next, hook an increase in the last stitch. Okay, and you're done with round 5. Hook a slip stitch to connect. Okay, hook a chain stitch. We hook the 6th round. Hook for single crochets first. Mark the first stitch. For X occupies for stitches. Second stitch. Third stitch, fourth stitch. Next, 2 increases. The first increase. Okay, the second increase. Next is to hook 14 half double crochets. As taught earlier, thread the stitch around the thread, pull the thread over, and stitch. 14 half double crochets in a row. Okay, after the hook is done, there are 2 increases. 1 increase. 2 increases. Then 1 single crochet. Okay, we're done with round 6. Hook a slip stitch. Next we hook the 7th round. We need hook double crochet in this round. First hook to chain stitches as a standing stitch for the double crochet, and then we started hooking double crochets. The double crochet is represented by the letter symbol F. Wrap the yarn and thread the crochet into the first stitch. Pull the yarn out. Pull to the same height as the 2 chain stitches. What's next? Pull the yarn. Put the first 2 loops together. Then put the 2 loops together again. This is a double crochet. Mark the first double crochet. Next, hook the second double crochet. Third double crochet. Fourth stitch. Stitch 5. Sixth stitch. Stitch 7. Eighth stitch. After hooking these 8 double crochets, next hook to single crochets. 1, 2. Next we hook 10 half double crochets. Thread the crochet around the yarn. Pull the yarn over and together. Second stitch. Stitch 3. Stitch 4. Fifth stitch. Stitch 6. Seventh stitch. Eighth stitch. Stitch 9. Stitch 1 0. After hooking these 10 half double crochets, next we hook to single crochets. 2 single crochets. Next, we will hook 5 double crochets in a row. 1 stitch. 2 stitches. 3 stitches. 4 stitches. 5 stitches are done. So after the 7th round, our nose is done. Extend the line. Leave a long tail, easy to sew later. What about the last round? So we're going to replicate that with the head. Let's connect. Let's take a look. Skip the first stitch. Thread the crochet from the second stitch. Find the final stitch. Through its back loop, connect this little loop down here. That's it. Tighten the thread. Our nose is done. Let's take a look. Okay, so let's hook the legs. The method of starting the stitch is different from before. Let's take a look. First, we make a loop and crochet in. Pull the small left hand properly and build the yarn well. Hook the yarn. So this is a chain stitch. First, 5 chain stitches, second stitches. After hooking these 5 chain stitches, we hook backwards. Thread the crochet inside the penultimate stitch chain stitch. That is, thread the stitch inside the 4th stitch of the positive number. Pick this single loop as part of the stitch. Put an increase in this stitch first. After the first stitch is hooked, make a mark first. And then threaded the crochet through the stitches. 1 more stitch. This is a stitch. Next, hook 2 single crochets in a row. Hook a single crochet in the 3rd stitch. Then hook a single crochet in the 2nd stitch. Okay, what's next? We're threading a stitch through the first chain stitch. Hook 3 single crochets. In this stitch, hook out 3 single crochets at the same time. This stitch is represented by the letter symbol W. Okay, so we rounded around. So what's next? We're in the 2nd stitch. Inside the 3rd and 4th stitches, hook a single crochet respectively. Then we just pick the remaining half loop. Just use it as the stitch. Hook 3 single crochets in a row. Hook a single crochet inside the 4th stitch, then hooked an increase that was hooked at the beginning. It also came out with 3 single crochets. The first round is hooked. There are 10 single crochets in total. Then we do a little tail connection. First round completed. Now we are going to do the second round. We can just follow the diagram to hook. First hook a chain stitch. Next, first hook 2 increases. Thread the crochet into the first stitch. Hook an increase. After the first increase is hooked, mark it first, and then hooked a single crochet again. Okay, next hook the second increase. Okay, after hooking the 2 increases, next hook 2 single crochets. And what happens next? We need to hook 3 increases in a row. The first increase. The second one. The third one. Then hook 2 single crochets. Then hook an increase. The second round is completed and it becomes 16 single crochets. Then we do end-to-end join. And then we'll see the diagrams at the end. Hooked all the 3rd to 15th rounds behind. After the hook is done, I'll show you how to change the color. Our leg has already hooked the 15th round. Finally, there is 1 decrease left that has not been hooked yet. We need to change the color in advance at this place. Then we can hook this leg at the same time, while stuffing PP cotton inside. What about this place? Let's fill it in first. You can fill it while checking. Okay, now let's look at the color change. As we said earlier, we are now on round 15. We haven't hooked the last reduced stitch left. Pick up the thread like this. And then what? Pull the string. After pulling it over, we haven't finished this decrease yet. What about the 2 loops above? Let's not merge them yet. And we're going to bring in the orange line. And remember that every time you change color, it's all the last stitches of the previous color. This is parallel to this place to change the color. It is either a hook to reduce the stitches or an ordinary single crochet. It all changes color when merging stitches here. Straight into the orange yarn. Hook the orange yarn. Pull over and together. What do? Tighten the end of the thread. Tighten the 2 threaded tails. Then after the 15th round is hooked, let's do end to end. So we have successfully changed the color. Tighten the end of the thread. What's next? Let's hook the back part with an orange yarn. Hook the 2 threads tails horizontally on it. First hook a chain stitch. From round 16 to 21, there are 12 single crochets hooked. No stitch addition, no stitch reduction. Hook the 2 threads tails across the crochet. How about after a few stitches? We can cut the black yarn. We won't be able to use it later. Okay, let's use this orange yarn next. Round the back rounds 16 to 22. Just hook them. What about the hook through this place? We learned how to change colors, including the later color change of our arms. Just follow this method. Let's take a look at our legs, all the way to round 22. Then we can just hook a slip stitch. Connect like this. Pull the yarn over. Cut directly. Leaves a longer line tail. Later for suturing. After each part is hooked, leaving such a thread tail for suturing. Take a look at our legs and you're done. It takes 2 legs. The hook method is the same. Then by our hook edge on this leg, we learned how to change colors. Okay, what about after we hook these 2 legs? And we'll hook up the rest of the foxes. All we have left is this little fox, this part of the body, and this arm part, and this ear part, the blushing part, and the tail part. Okay, what's next? So just hook the diagram. We've taken every part of this little fox. It's all hooked. Ear, blush, nose, body. The arms, legs, and tail are all hooked. Then our arms, tails, and legs all need to be filled with cotton. What about our blushes and our ears? No need to put cotton in. What about the nose part? We sew and put PP cotton in it. Okay, what's next? Let's first take the head and body of this little fox. What about these two parts? Sew together. What about our heads and bodies? It's all filled with PP cotton. There are 18 stitches left in the head and body. So what happens when we sew? Just follow a stitch. Just sew on a stitch. What about this place where the hands meet? We're going to put it on the back of this body. Corresponds like this. And let's look at the suture. It's very simple. In this way, one stitch corresponds to one stitch to sew. Just correspond up and down. Everybody follow me this way. Sewing the head and body together. All right, after we sew this head and body, so we're going to sew on this arm. Take a look inside the arm. We also put PP cotton in for him. Let's give him less. Just leave 3 to 4 lines blank. We squish it like this. When sewing, double seam. Let's take a look. It's sewn right between this head and this body. That's it. Sewed on the penultimate line of this body part. And the second line. Just this place in the middle will do. What about when our arm is sewing? What about this bulging face on a straight line? Let's take a look. Then we can sew it up like this. Double-layered arms. Just fix this arm like this. Then we follow the same method, sew the other arm symmetrically. Okay, what about after the arm is sewn? So we're going to sew this leg up. What about when the legs are sewn? To stay on one side of this arm, sewed between the 6th and 7th lines of the body parts. Just sew it here. Sewing in this position. Let's take a quick look. Keep it in a straight line. What about this place above? Just pinch it flat. This leg has a foot surface. This foot should always be facing forward for him. Let's take a look. Sewing in this position. Feet forward. This foot should always be facing forward. This place is very obvious. This place has to face forward. On the top, sew this double layer 1. After sewing this leg, and we're going to sew the other legs accordingly. What about after we sew all this arms and legs, and we sewed the tail back up? We looked at the suture position of the tail. The tail can be sewn in the same line as the leg. It can also be sewn on the top. a little bit lower. Just sew this tail well. So what's next? Let's look at the suture on the nose. Take a look at this nose. It's already hooked. First we need to press this nose on it. Find this place around it, this place. Then install this button like this, as part of the nose of this little fox. That's it. Next we'll sew up this nose. What about this nose suture position? Let's take a look. Count from the top of your head, sewing at the bottom of row 17. Just sew it on the bottom of row 17. Make sure this nose, sew it in the middle. Let's take a look. What about the uppermost part of the nose? Just sew it on these 17 rows. Fix it like this. So what's next? Let's just sew up the nose. You sew along this contour of the nose. Let's take a look. Just sew along the contour of this edge. Finally, leave a small stitch. Then put PP cotton in it and fill it up. Finally, just seal the stitches. Everyone follow me. Sew this part of the nose. And we sewed him up. How about sewing the nose to the end? Leave a small stitch in it and fill it with PP cotton. Finally, just sew this small stitch together. 2 eyes are mounted on either side of the nose. Between lines 16 and 17 is fine. So what we're going to do is we're going to sew on the ear. After the ears are hooked, it looks like this. First of all, we need to put this ear, sewing a shape. Let's take a look. Here's how we fold it. And let's fix this place with this thread. Through this place. Thread these 4 layers together at the same time. You can fix an extra stitch. And then what? To this place. So what we're going to do is sew up the ears. What about the ears? Lines for 211 sewn on the top of the head. Put it in this position. Through all 4 floors of this place. What about after sewing this ear? What about the other ear? Sewed symmetrically like this. After we sewed these 2 ears, we sewed this blush too. We follow the outline of this round. Just stitch it on this face. Nail to the left and right sides of this nose. What about when sewing? As for our blush, we should pay attention to maintaining symmetry. The distance must be the same. Okay, what's next? And we're going to do that with a black line. The eyelashes and this part of the belly button. Let's first sketch the eyelash part. Through it out of this place. Thread the stitches from one side. Thread the stitches above the eyes like this. Then pull it down diagonally like this. Such a distance spanning to lines. Then through it on this side. And that's a piece of it. Fix this side too. Then we can put the thread directly on it. And I want you to sketch that brow. 6 to 8 lines in the middle. Thread the stitches like this above the eye. And then skip a line. Pull it diagonally like this. Through to the other side. The eyebrows are a little short. Let's adjust this place again. Elongate this eyebrow a little bit. Then wear it to this side. Okay, this is the wrong place. We threw it down. A little further to the right. Then stretch it out a little bit. And we can pull the thread directly into this nose. In this way, we can directly outline the following: the mouth part. If this place is not easy to wear, we can go through to one side first. Let's transition from this place first. And we'll bring him underneath the nose. Thread the stitches from the round. Transition to this underside of this nose. Thread the stitches like this. Adjust to this position in the middle. So what happens is we pull the yarn down. Corresponds to the position in the middle of the body. Thread the stitches down here, piercing out on one side. So what about after pulling the yarn? Can you take a look at this line? Is it in the middle? A little crooked. Let's adjust it for him again. Just be at this location. Thread the stitches here. What happens then? Pierce it out the side. Okay, so that sort of outlines it. What's next? Let's pull the thread over this body again. Let's sketch the belly button again. It will be more convenient to hold this way. Thread the stitches from the round. Through it to this position on the body. In this place, let's sketch the part of the belly button. Take a look. Is it in the middle of this? Okay, what about after confirming? Let's start sketching. Across 2 lines, thread the stitches from above. What? Cross it diagonally. Form a crossed cross. Okay, how about this? Our belly button is sketched. It's very simple. Cut the thread again. All right, take a look. Our cute little fox is done. Okay, thank you for watching. See you in the next video.